Champions are made here at the State Fair. Ahead here on NTV's Grow, we take a look at some of the livestock entries and more about 4-H as well. Plus, that big agreement with Taiwan. We'll talk with one of the Nebraska ag leaders who signed the deal. And with all the challenges in the farm economy, it's a non-issue in the presidential campaign. We'll take a closer look. It's time to grow at the Nebraska State Fair. What a better place to celebrate agriculture than out here at the State Fair. This year's theme is Grand Champions Made in Nebraska, celebrating the state's agricultural heritage. It's year number 7 in Grand Island, where the State Fair has now surpassed 2 million visitors. And while it's certainly a place to try unique food, see concerts, enjoy the rides, fair leaders say first and foremost, it's still about promoting agriculture, especially livestock. For 4-H and FFA youth, it's the state championship. Steve White has more from the livestock arena.
We're going to have a great year. All of our entries are up, open class, 4-H, FFA, and so it's going to be a great fair.
There's always so much to see and do here, but especially that second weekend, I think that people owe it to themselves to be here and come on out and support especially the young people, the 4-H and the FFA kids.
Well, that's what it's all about, and that's the future of our industry is our 4-H and FFA programs, and we have some of the best kids in the country in our 4-H and FFA programs here in Nebraska, and so it's just it's a great weekend, a great atmosphere, and the kids are all excited to come to the State Fair and exhibit their projects.
Anything you're doing different in terms of some of the livestock things this year?
You know, we've got, of course, our new open air arena down on the east end is going to be a great addition to the fair. Of course, we have poultry back this year after 1 year off, and so it's just, you know, a lot of the things now, we've been here 7 years, and so a lot of the things we fine-tuned them, and we try to get better every year.
And now for your poll question, what's your favorite part of the Nebraska State Fair? No surprise, most of you say livestock shows and 4-H exhibits are the highlight, followed by fair food. So make sure to follow us on Twitter and join in on the conversation. The State Fair here in Nebraska is its purple ribbon best of all across the state, the work that's being done. And also, there's a lot of work being done before the fair even starts when it comes to the judges and all of that. NTV's Grow co-host Steve White fills you in.
There's a lot that happens behind the scenes at the State Fair, putting in the cars for the Skytram for one thing, but one of the busiest places in the days before the fair is inside the 4-H building.
So we have breads, cakes, cookies.
Slice it, husk it, hang it. It's Judgment Day for Nebraska's 4-H youth.
There's some amazing things that these 4-Hers have done.
From photographs to an old Ford, the State Fair is a showcase for the 144,000 Nebraska youth from all 93 counties who take part in 4-H. And judges like Dana Rethwish want to see what kids have learned.
I just finished judging a loaf of bread where the girl went out to the farm, harvested her own Milo, took it in, ground it, and then baked it in a Dutch oven with briquettes. She learned a lot for a 10-year-old.
We have some tremendous volunteers that have been helping us every year for years, so we definitely rely on their work and their support.
For food judges, it's important not to overindulge.
Everyone thinks it's the best job anyone could ever have, which it is awesome. But after about 2 hours, you get a little tired of tasting different foods.
For University of Nebraska extension staff scattered throughout the state, it's also one of the rare days many are under the same roof.
Fun to catch up and see all the different things that the different counties have done throughout the year.
Visitors can scan some items with their phones to unlock videos showing the story behind the project and learn about everything from taxidermy to furniture. But when it comes to the food, it's best enjoyed with the eyes.
We usually go several days before we want to see a baked good again after a day of judging.
Of course, that's just some of what you'll see from 4-H kids out here at the fair. Many livestock projects still to come, especially during the second weekend. Steve White, NTV News at the Nebraska State Fair.
Well, there will be no fresh cinnamon rolls. That's one thing that was a big highlight here at the State Fair for several years. It's not happening this year. The Wheat Board and wheat growers have been part of this fair for a decade, but they say that they'll be sitting this one out because of their budget and the educational impact. The Wheat Board chairman says they have reprioritized events they are taking part in based on return on investment. In past years, they brought their mobile baking lab to the fair, serving up fresh samples to highlight the industry. Nebraska Wheat will participate in Husker Harvest Days. And state ag leaders came out here to the fair as well, especially after signing a big deal with Taiwan. They just got back from making this major deal, and State Ag Director Greg Ibaugh led a delegation to Taiwan. They sealed the deal for that country to purchase more than $400 million worth of wheat, corn, soybeans, distillers grain, beef, and pork. It's been an important market for Nebraska agriculture.
But it also gave us a great opportunity to extend Nebraska's brand in not only Taiwan, but in the Asia marketplace. And I truly believe that as we're able to talk about the great job our farmers and ranchers do, tell the story about them being family farms and ranches, which 98% of them are, that have been in the family for 5 and 6 generations, that we really have the ability to leverage that expertise and that story to create consumer demand for things grown right here in Nebraska.
Nebraska Farm Bureau President Steve Nelson was part of the delegation and signed that agreement as well. Nelson says it shows the importance of strong trade. The delegation also visited a biotech study center in Taiwan and talked about the importance of biotech crops. Other news here, we could be in for a record-breaking harvest, but of course the proof is in the pudding. While there's some optimism about corn yields in Nebraska, there are widespread reports of ear formation issues. From Gothenburg to Saunders County and south to Kansas, many reports in Clay and Thayer counties. Extension educators suggest you look at fields prior to harvest. Check out the university's Crop Watch website for more. Meanwhile, for the most part, crops out there are looking pretty good. The latest government snapshot for Nebraska shows cooler weather across the state and irrigation going on in most counties. Most corn counties does continue to rate good. Sorghum and soybeans are also developing well for the most part. Even with drought, alfalfa conditions across the state rate more than 60% good. Producers have done their third cutting and are moving on to the fourth. Despite the challenges in agriculture itself and some of the policies have really been avoided in discussion when it comes to the national presidential campaign. NTV's Steve White has more.
So what we thought a year ago that would be
Farm income is down 4 straight years, and now comes a fall harvest that could be a bin buster.
And as we look at the grain markets, we think that there's a big crop out there. We're likely to have record large U.S. corn and soybean yields. But at the end of the day, it's hard to get too much bearish below $3.10 a bushel on corn, or maybe something like $9.50 on beans.
Economist Dan Bossy says grain markets aren't getting better or getting worse. The rapid expansion of ethanol a decade ago was a big boost, but he says that growth phase has ended. And he says farmers need to lower what they're paying on land, machinery, fertilizer, and seed.
And the problem is our costs have been high because people have had their hands in our pocket, and those hands need to come out, and we need to see adjustments so that we can make margin going forward.
Introduce our first speaker.
At this feeding quality forum sponsored by Certified Angus Beef, Bossy says the growth in American livestock continues, and some areas of the cattle industry are doing okay.
Cow-calf men have been making money for the last 3 or 4 years. Now the packer is making money as much as $80 a head. It's the feedlot, the guy who owns concrete in the middle, who's not doing as well.
Agricultural exports are good, but the strong U.S. dollar makes it more expensive for trade partners, and economists say that's not a good sign. But in this election year, farm policy has been a non-issue.
Our position in the economy has shrunk to 1.6%. So as we have an election forthcoming here, we're concerned that once the new electorate is in there, that indeed agriculture gets kicked to the side.
And we also caught up with Congressman Adrian Smith, and he shares his take on things.
But I remind my colleagues in Washington all the time that the most common request of Nebraskans is actually to be left alone, by the federal government. And the EPA and the overreach, that's just one example. But the executive branch of the federal government right now, the president threatened to go around Congress if we didn't do what he wanted us to do. He's made good on that threat, certainly.
Now turning to Nebraska politics, when it comes to property tax relief, a lot of you landowners might want to know more about what's going on here. NTV's Natalie Martinez follows up with the governor.
I have great concern about the property tax that was visited about today.
Mark Christensen is one of many who voiced his concerns about property taxes at Governor Ricketts' town hall meeting.
We do town halls all across the state for a couple reasons. One is to be able to talk about what we've got going on in state government, what are some of the things that we've been able to accomplish, how are we getting things changed, what kind of reforms are we making. And the other is to just let people ask questions and give me feedback on the things that are important to them.
The top two issues presented were both property taxes.
When you start looking at it, we can't continue this trend. There's a lot of farmers losing money. There's a lot of break-evens on producing irrigated corn that's in that $3.50, $3.70 a bushel.
And construction on Highway 83.
So we're trying to keep that access to care very local, so the patients that maybe receive oncology services, for instance, don't have to travel 70 or 72 miles each way.
Lots of people turned out, leaving McCook's town hall standing room only.
It went great. It was a great attendance. I really didn't expect this kind of crowd here today, but it made me very happy to know that citizens are paying attention.
There were a lot of leaders out here at the Nebraska State Fair as well. We catch up with one of them after the break. Don't go anywhere.